welcome back to my channel. It's been a while, and for that I am sorry. I moved and it took a lot of energy, and I was also working and blah blah blah, but I'm back with some videos. I'm going to dive right back into my channel with a 25 days of Sockmas. So I'm sorry that I've been absent for like the past 3 months, but here are 25 videos, woohoo! I have with me right here, and I'm sorry the background is kind of a mess right now, and it's probably gonna change because I'm still unpacking all my stuff. And I'm sitting at my coffee table right now. Hopefully I will have a better setup for this, but as you can see right here, I have a sock machine. I have the Dean & Beans 3D printed sock machine, and I got the 2.0 package that came with like everything that you could ever need because I'm a total beginner, and I just wanted everything I might need so I wouldn't have to go back and figure out what I was missing. And we're gonna learn how to use the sock machine together. My current plan for the 25 days of Sockmas videos are just to learn how to use this machine pretty much. The Dean & Bean YouTube channel has a couple playlists where they like have crank-alongs, so I thought we could start with a couple of those, and then we'll just see what happens. Some of these videos might be me doing this until I get frustrated or until I just completely mess up the sock. And yeah, we'll just have to go and see. I have tried this machine a little bit in the past. I bought it a while ago, and then I used it a little bit. I was trying to like learn how to use it, and then I moved, so it's been put away for the past couple months. I did like learn a little bit in the past. This is like the most I have to show. So this was what I made. This is what I have made so far with this machine, is this kind of funky looking sock. Check it out. I did a toe. This was a toe up sock. This was my most successful attempt. Like, looking at this now, it looks great considering like how much trouble I had figuring out how to use this machine. Look at that toe. It looks really good. My heel looks like okay. It has you know, like some, I mean, I guess that's normal. That happens when you do a heel by hand. It has a little bit of a hole right there. When I was doing this, I was having a lot of trouble with the heel because you kind of like do it the way you do it by hand, where you knit like half the needles, but on a machine, if I'm remembering correctly, you like work across half and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you increase, and then you eventually join back up and do the ankle. And it was getting like so tight on the machine that sometimes like the stitches would pop off the needles. So that was really frustrating, and I'm hoping that throughout this month we can figure out how to problem solve when that happens. So this is what I have made so far on my machine, and we're gonna make a lot of progress now. To start out, I watched a couple of the Dean & Bean YouTube videos as a refresher. I watched the video on how to make a gauge swatch, and that's what this is. And we're gonna start with a sock in my size, just because it's, you know, probably not gonna look that great anyway. And it was easier than, you know, asking someone else for their foot measurements. So I measured my foot. I've got the tension good to go. We're basically ready to go. So I picked out some yarn from my stash. I had started with like some really pretty yarn that I had, and then I thought maybe I should wait until I'm a little bit more confident, so I don't want to waste the yarn, and I don't want to just like have to cut it and, you know, end up with a bunch of little balls. I picked this other yarn that I've had for a while. It's kind of old, and I did get it from someone else who bought it, I have no idea when, but it's this cool kind of primary color yarn, and I don't know if it's like self-striping or if it's space dye, or I don't know what this is gonna look like, but I've always been curious. So I'm gonna start with this as like my main sock color, and then I grabbed a few fun contrast colors for toes and heels and maybe other things. But I thought these would look kind of good together. I wish I had this orange color that's in there, but I don't have that shade. Let's get going. So the first thing they have you do is put this little bonnet in the sock machine. And I think you can also make these, but since I bought that kit, it came with. According to the video, you put the bonnet on every other needle. And I'm using the, what is this thing called? I'm using 60 needles for my sock right now. And the bonnet has 30 of these little rings on it, so you put one on every other one. And the hooks are supposed to be open. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to crank a few rounds of waste yarn onto my little setup bonnet here. I don't know what the setup bonnet is exactly for yet, but I will know eventually. But right now we're gonna knit some waste yarn onto it before we start with our main color. It's kind of tight. Oh my gosh. Everything is feeling kind of tight, which sucks because I did a tension swatch and I thought it was all good. Oh, it's because my machine's not threaded properly. Okay, that's much better. Oops, I dropped one. I dropped a stitch and then I put it back on. Let's see. Okay, I dropped another stitch. Oh, and one didn't even catch. Oh my god, this is hard. It took me like 3 tries to finally get the scrap yarn on every single needle. No drop stitches. We have to do a couple more rows, so let's do it together. Sorry, my filming setup is a little weird. In this video, I have not figured out the best way to film what's happening here just yet. Let me know if you have any tips. I tried to film with my phone like over the top and my iCloud just like does not work, and it said I didn't have any storage left, so I couldn't do that. Anyway, the next step is to put a ravel cord in one of these things so we can like take it out later. So let's do that.
Past the main mark. So here's the main mark, here's the needle that I'm targeting, and here's where I just pulled the waste yarn through.
Okay.
And then I like to put a weighted clip to hold those 2 ends together. Then we're going to crank 1 time around. And we're going to do the exact same thing around the exact same needle.
Crank around. Oh, I'm gonna run out how to use a cut piece of ravel cord. Gosh darn it. Okay, well I guess I have to do it again because I used a short piece of cord. Oopsies. I feel stupid. I had to add another piece, but I'm back at the instructions now, the beginning of the round, so let's see what we have to do next.
This time we're going to pull the ravel cord through and into the center of the cylinder.
Okay.
We're done with our waste yarn for the moment. We're going to get our project yarn, thread it through the yarn feeder.
Now I have this long tail.
And I usually start by dropping it into the center of the cylinder. And again, I'm going to now undo that clip I just did and clip all 4 of those ends together. I've got the both ends of the ravel cord. I've got the end of the waste yarn, and I've got the new tail for the project yarn.
Okay, here's my project yarn. I hope it's a continuous ball because I definitely found some moths in my yarn stash recently. And this looks old. Knitting on a sock machine as a beginner is like fun until you like really mess up, and then it's like not fun at all. At least that's how my experience is right now. I feel like that's just how it is, like learning things sometimes. Learning curve, I guess. Hopefully we can figure it out over the next 25 days. Alrighty, so sorry, I was interrupted. I got a phone call. This is our yarn for the main portion of our sock. I just watched a little bit more of the video and she said, put it in. I put it in and now we're gonna crank 30 rows. Let's see if we can do it without dropping any stitches. Okay, we just did 30 rows. That was so fast. I'm gonna see what the next step is. The next instruction that I got was to remove the weight, remove the clip that's down at the bottom, and basically pull up the work from the bottom where you put the ravel cord in, and we're gonna like attach it to the needles now so we can like fold over the cuff at the ankle. Since we're not doing a rib, we're gonna like fold it over to make it look real nice. So I'm gonna do that now. It's time to do the heel. So I'm just gonna angle the camera downward, and you can try to do the you can try, and we can do the heel together. I'm watching the crank along right now. Video 6 is the heel, and so the instruction I was just given was to lift half of the needles up so we won't be knitting over them, and we're just gonna knit over half of the stitches, similar to knitting a sock by hand. And this is the tool that they gave me to raise the needles. So I'm gonna do it now. So they have you like draw these marks. You can see the black one. There's also a red one on the other side, which is actually like coming, it's kind of rubbing off. So I think I'll need to redo that soon. So they want you to raise all the needles up. Okay, and then there's 2 more. Okay, so half the needles have been raised. So the last instruction was to crank until the needles were in front of the yarn feeder. The needles that are raised were in front of the yarn feeder. And now I'm gonna watch the next instruction. I'm sorry, this is not very interesting because I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm gonna watch the next instruction, see what's next. As I was watching this, I realized that I had, like, you can see the machine is right here. I'm sorry, my apartment's very messy right now. So I had this threaded wrong, I guess. I guess it's called threading even though it's yarn. I think I did this, well, I know that I did it wrong. It was working, but I guess this part and this part are like specifically for doing the heel to like help the yarn stay taut. So I had it threaded like this the entire time, but now I guess I'm learning that that wasn't necessary, and she's giving us the instruction to do this. Maybe that's why it was very tight. And that makes sense if this is to keep your yarn kind of taut. I don't know. But now she's giving me instructions to like raise needles and start the heel.
Is always the one that has the yarn attached to it. And make sure your knitting needles have completely cleared the cam area. You stop hearing the clicking before you stop cranking. So after we did that first row, we're now going to add our 3 heel forks.
Just did one heel row. And now we're gonna put the heel forks on, which are in this box. And most of the things that I got were pink because I ordered pink machine. This is what they look like. It is a fork with a big weight on the bottom. There are a lot of sounds happening right now. I don't know if they're gonna, if the camera's gonna pick them up, but there are people moving in the building, and there's a lot of sound right now. I'm gonna raise my weight using that cable thing, and then a cable lock, I think is what they called it. So here's my little weight. I'm gonna raise it because it was getting kind of low. And then they're also putting the heel forks in. Heel forks are in there. Boop, boop, boop. Now I'm going to continue following her directions, which is to continue to raise the needles. I'm sorry, I'm doing such a terrible job filming. Which is to continue to raise the needles to make it, to decrease. I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, I have like 5 more turns to go, but I just noticed that one of my needles didn't catch the yarn. So I'm gonna try to pick it up so we don't have to start over, because I have no idea how to correct my mistakes. I would literally just take this off and unfortunately have to start over. Check it out, that's the heel. Oh my gosh, this is the heel. See it right there? I went off on my own and I finished the sock, and remember when I said that I like threaded the machine incorrectly and that it was kind of tight? So it totally messed up my tension changing it. And I have the most hilariously weird sock. Okay, it actually doesn't look that bad, but when I take it off the machine, I was like, what the hell is this? This is the beautiful ankle that we made at the beginning. Lovely rainbow effect happening. And then we made this cute little heel. And then look at what happened to the foot. Okay, first of all, it went from like cool blendy to like self-striping, which is totally fine, but the tension drastically changed. Like this is so nice and tight, and this is like so much bigger and longer than my tension swatch. Like look at, it's like longer than the ankle, and that was, and like look how much bigger the stitches are. So it's so wonky. I will keep it so we can recap all of this at the end of the 25 days, but wonky sock. Also, they have you do the Kitchener stitch to close up the toe, and I could not see what I was doing, so like it's closed, but there's also like a bunch of stitches that aren't even attached. Like check out that hole. I'm just gonna leave it because this is a learning experience. This is my first sock. I'm just gonna try to do another one. The sun is going down today, so I'm gonna leave you here with this. Sock number 1. I'm gonna do a little homework and practice on my own, and I will see you tomorrow.